All right, folks. Thank you for joining us for a Friday Night Live on September 27th. September just about done. Just about done. And here in Tennessee, we are currently dealing with the remnants, Lord, remnants of Hurricane Helena, Helen with an E on the end. I'm not even sure I've heard anybody say it out loud. I've only read it. It's been kind of a mess. Now, here in Knoxville, no real super major issues that I have noticed, at least not with my immediate community. But man, Northeast Tennessee, the mountains, Cott County, Newport, all those areas kind of along the French Broad River, Pigeon River, Cosby, they're just getting wrecked. So I'm going to be on the lookout for uh, if there's uh, if there's any way assistance can be provided to those people in the next several days. I saw photos of people on the roof of Unicoi County Hospital, which is a little community hospital, but a hospital just the same in a very rural area. There are dams that have failed. It's kind of close to apocalyptic for some of these areas. And of course, I've not to discount what's happening on the coast, but at least with the coast, people down there, hurricanes is not their first rodeo for the most part. They kind of know what's up. Um, the mountains of Tennessee are not used to getting torrential rain several days in a row, coupled with these high winds. And we had the additional issue of we have been so dry for the last 2 months or so that in a lot of areas the soil had gotten kind of hydrophobic, and that rain did not have a lot of opportunity to soak, and then it just started to run down the slope. So if you guys are listening to this and if you need help, if you know neighbors who need help, if you need help getting connected to resources, feel free to reach out to me. I still have a few tricks up my sleeve for that kind of stuff. I've kind of checked in with the folks I know, the customers I have in those areas, and so far that they're reporting back that they are safe. And that is something to be said for Tennessee, and I'm sure it's true in many other places. Folks are real quick to jump in and help each other out, and we're seeing that happen right now. So y'all be careful out there. We are just about out of it. When you look at the radar, it's kind of starting to, I don't want to say dissipate, but it's losing form. This storm was so big and so strong, it kept its form well inland. It was kind of remarkable to see, and we kind of saw the eye for a little bit up here this afternoon. You kind of see it on radar, and I was out running a couple of errands, and all of a sudden this blue sky opens up, this literal hole in the sky I could see. So crazy stuff. And Margot's here. Margot is on the other side of Florida. Let me know how you're doing down there. It was really something. So it's I guess we're on our fourth or fifth day in a row of steady rain, and all day has been very windy, very gusty. We've been getting like 45, 50 mile an hour gusts, and it's been kind of a pain in the butt to get anything done. I am a little bit behind on everything. The essentials have been taken care of, but for the most part, some things are just in a holding pattern, which is annoying because I have friends coming out on Sunday, actually friends tomorrow as well. Um, we have friends coming out Sunday to help me build a woodshed, and a couple of other people coming out on Saturday to help me prep for building the woodshed, which is going to involve bringing down some small locust trees. So I'm hoping to get enough of a break in all this that we can safely work with chainsaws. And on the positive side, being all this rain will make it easier to dig with the post hole diggers. So there is that. Margot is all good. Some limbs, but nothing major. And she said that it's creepy to be in Iowa hurricane. I've never really experienced anything like that, and it was an unsettling feeling, no joke. And I knew what it was. I was kind of expecting it. Yeah. I those of y'all that have the cojones to put up with that kind of stuff and throw hurricane parties and write all the interesting graffiti on the plywood that you put over your windows, it's a whole different kind of culture. We're all kind of weirded out by it up here. So the weather will continue to do its thing, and we'll just kind of work around it the best that we can. So yeah, we're looking forward to getting this woodshed built. This has kind of been on my radar for a little while. I believe today I finally decided exactly where I want it. That's a fly, by the way, crawling across. Oh, I'm gonna mess up that fly. I have a pest fly crawling across my camera as we speak. Oh, I think I got him. He got catapulted. Anyhow, don't report me to PETA. So I think I finally decided exactly where I want it. It's going to be about 10 by 16. I'm going to leave some of the fine details up to the folks who are coming up to help me, because I've got folks with far more building experience and skills in that realm than I do. And it's mostly going to be for firewood, with a section of it being for compost. Since I don't actually need to store tons and tons and tons of firewood, using only about a 1/3 of a cord a year, it'll still let me put up probably at least a full cord on one side, and then a couple of compost sections on the other side. So I've got a few. Well, I've got four by four posts here, 12 footers that I've just been kind of sitting on for a while, and the rest of it is going to come as locust. We've got lots and lots of 6 to 8 inch locust that I will, me and my buddy Josh will take down, limb up, and turn into the rest of the structure. Probably for now it'll be open. We'll get a roof on it. I got a line on some metal roofing cutoffs, but I will figure out fully enclosing it later. That's probably just something that I will scrap around for. And I figured out, the way I like to orient everything up here. I say everything. Major infrastructure is oriented on the contour of the land. And I kept putting the stakes in the ground for the woodshed in the general vicinity where I want it. And I just didn't like it. And I kept pulling them out and resetting them and everything. And then finally I looked at what I was doing and realized I was trying to make it perpendicular to the driveway, which turns out doesn't make any sense. So I went back to using my design brain, thought about how the weather moves, because there's times most of our weather comes out of the west, pushes east. But when we have really crazy storms, sometimes it'll kind of curve and it'll come in from the northeast. And the original orientation I had set up would let everything in the front get weathered. So I kind of kicked it at about a 45-degree angle, and it will now be angled on the contour, facing kind of the gap that is between the workshop and the house. And so if you've been up here before, facing the our sycamore, our centerpiece tree, and I think that will look and work a lot better. And it still gives me plenty of space for where I collect leaves and wood chips, where I process the firewood, and where a couple of things get parked from time to time. So cleaned a bunch of junk out. It forced me having, since I'm going to have people up, I wanted a nice, clean, open workspace. Didn't want to have people climbing around over any of my crap. So ditched a bunch of old pallets that I've been sitting on for a while that I didn't really need anymore. Moved a few things. Just it was needed. And this is the highest point of the property on our 10 acres. And I've got it up there because I like to move all of my finished materials downhill. So I can pull up the driveway, back around, offload whatever I've got. If it's stuff going to the compost, if it's somebody bringing me wood chips or leaves, if it's building materials. And so it's on the highest point, and anything that needs to be like finished compost goes downhill. Get downhill to the gardens, downhill to wherever. So I think it'll work. I think it'll work. I'm happier with it now. And what was funny was I have been thinking this through in my head. Well, I was definitely talking out loud, but I was mostly thinking it through in my head by myself out there. And it wasn't until Angel came outside earlier with the dog in between rainstorms, and I was just talking to her about it. And I was moving the stakes around again. And as soon as I started talking it out loud with her, I was like, it needs to be like this. It needs to be like this. And here's why. And she was like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. So I got to remind myself when I'm mentally spinning my wheels, maybe I should talk it over with, my wife. Even if she's not like as into the design science as I am, she's a really good person to bounce ideas off of. So, don't discount the other half of your relationship on that kind of thing. Take a minute here and say howdy to Cormac. It's good to see you, my friend. I've been catching up on last couple of the permaculture vine episodes. I just don't get as much time as I used to listen to podcasts, so I'm a lot more picky, but you're still in the rotation, buddy. So thank you for stopping in. All right, I'm grabbing notes here. Let's see here. We'll do a quick catch up and recap, because I kind of skipped the last couple of times. So I don't know if you can hear my shed shaking, but it's a good thing I have as many books in this shed as I do, because it might have been picked up and carried off at this point. The wind is gusting so hard, and I'm currently amazed that the plastic is still on this high tunnel out here. So last weekend, Saturday evening, went down to Haven Earth Trade School, Haven Earth Village. That is a community, sustainable community down there. They like the word village. They're not they're not a commune. They have very specific language for what their vision is. But anyhow, they're a sustainable community down near Chattanooga, on beautiful, beautiful acreage. And they were having their fall equinox. So I just went down there to hang out, catch up with some folks, see my friends, shake and howdy and do all that kind of stuff. So that was a nice evening. Had a wonderful farm to table dinner. Got to catch up with my buddy Alana and Amani and River and Robert from Hillbilly Bees. Sandy and Steve from East Tennessee Homestead Alliance. Lots of good folks down there. So that was a wonderful time. Glad I was able to fit that in. And then on Sunday, we had our definitely our final, because summer is officially gone, our final summer foraging class. We had 4 people come up for that and had a great time. It was one of the best groups that I've had. We just had a fun time. Walked around for a good 2.5 hours. Kind of took about a 30-minute break in between, and at the halfway point there, just got to show them all kinds of abundance up here, answer a lot of questions, cover all kinds of other topics. One of my favorite things I like about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it is that it invites people to have conversations about stuff that may be out there to some people. And, one of the first things, of course, read the room, right? Like I read my audience, or I read my students, my guests, because that's just kind of part of, communicating with people. Kind of feel them out for what level of, I don't know, I guess, questioning things, questioning a dominant paradigm, how much they're into that. Some people, are a little bit, some are a lot. And generally speaking, folks who come up here to learn about foraging and wild plants and food as medicine and that sort of thing, they're already somewhat down that road. But, there's a lady, she asked me what I thought about electroculture. And I'm like, it's interesting you bring that up, because I've kind of been revisiting lately, and I've been listening to some more podcasts and stuff. And this is going to kind of tie into my main topic here after a while. But as soon as the topic came up, I said, hey, we can get as weird as you want to get up here. I'm not going to pass judgment. I don't even really have any hard and fast belief systems around this stuff. I just like to research things and entertain the thought. I don't have any problem with that. I'll entertain all kinds of stuff. I don't necessarily fully accept it, but I'll run it through the critical thinking process for sure. So that class was fantastic. I enjoyed doing it. I've got several things coming up here. So we are just about a week out from Self Reliance Festival. Um, that's going to be next Saturday and Sunday. A couple days prior to that, I'll be out at Toolman Tim's property in Decaturville, Tennessee. We're going to be putting in some of the initial food forest infrastructure. I've got a few more trees to pick up. Several I've already obtained, some shrubs, some other odds and ends. And so we're going to have multiple work days, multiple work crews. So if you want to do infrastructure, you can do that. If you want to do trees with me, you can do that. I'm sure we'll do a foraging walk out there. So that's just going to be a good time. And then I will be doing 2 foraging walks at SRF as well. We'll take a little breather for a little bit, and then I'll be returning. I think it's the second weekend to Centerville, Tennessee for the Back to the Land Festival. I think I'm just going to be out there on Saturday. I might go out Friday and stay Friday night. Kind of depends on how things are at home. But I'm going to be on the foraging and herbalism panel there, and I believe we're going to fit in a foraging walk on the lands out there at that is at the it's basically like the fairgrounds is what I believe that is. So we're looking forward to that. And then finally on November, pardon me while I double check my date. I want to say it's November 2nd. November 2nd, I am teaming up with Holy Cat's phone. Please work with me here. November 2nd, that is a Saturday. We get teaming up with Nicole Sauce and the Tactical Redneck, and we're going to do I've got a title for it that escapes my mind at the moment, but a tree planting class centered around the principles of permaculture. So we're going to talk about this is mostly going to be teaching and showing them. People aren't going to have to pay money to dig holes in Nicole's rocky ass soil. I will be digging the holes probably the next day. That's fine. But we're going to talk about how to choose trees, how to choose the correct site for the trees, how to use trees in different ways, how to partner. I think we're calling it partnering with trees on the permaculture homestead. We've got trees that need to serve as eventual fence line. We've got trees that need to serve for food production. We've got trees that need to serve for livestock fodder. We're going to get a lot of this is going to tie in very closely with understanding and working with microclimates, of which they have several on those 3 acres. So I've got the outline completed for that, putting in, been working on my notes. And so we're getting the word out November 2nd. That's a Saturday. You can reach out to me or Nicole at livingfreeintennessee.com to get signed up for that. As I'm sure as Nicole gets finished with SRF, there will be more promo on that particular class, but it's kind of like one thing at a time, right? Cost is looking to be around $90, 5 to 6 hour class in Middle Tennessee. So you guys let me know if you want more information about that. I'll be happy to talk about it. And that is the updates. That's what I've got. That's what I've got squared away on the calendar so far. I think there's probably other things, but we'll get to it later. So here around the homestead, it's been a little bit crazy. I've had a combination of trying to get stuff here, 3 separate offsite projects in various stages, and my newest one that I'm very excited about is kind of a slight reworking and rehabilitation of certain areas on a property that was previously permaculturally designed and planted, and it just needs a little bit of reworking several years later. Nothing real major. But what's wonderful is that this customer is, I think I talked about it a little bit last week. She has offered me seeds, fruit, cuttings, all kinds of stuff off of the land as we thin certain things. So for instance, there's a pomegranate that she said never really fruited, and she wasn't sure why, because she had another one that did. but they were kind of in an area where it didn't make sense for them to be anymore. And they were basically root suckers. They spread via root suckers. And so I dug several of them out, and I put 2 of them here, and I put 2 on another customer's property, my customer down the road, my neighbor who I've been working with for almost a year now. Same with root suckered pawpaw trees. Not sure what the success rate will be of transplanting them, but I was able to get a pretty good root structure off of them when I dug them out. Same thing, some here, some over at Beth's. I dug out a pretty big plot of asparagus that this lady didn't want, and I divided up those crowns, and finished out the bottom berm of my main garden here, and gave some of those to a friend. And maybe there was one other thing, but those are like kind of the big 3. And then that same customer sent me home with jujube fruit, pawpaws. Oh, and her persimmons. She's got a large, beautiful, highly productive Fuyu persimmon, of which I just have a tiny tree that I planted last year. And so I ate all of those and have saved seed. Sent Margot some seed. They got a little stinky on her. Sorry about that, Margot. But I cleaned them as best as I could. And then I was like, I got to drop these in the mail, send them as quick as I could. And let her deal with slightly fermented jujube seeds. I'm sure whoever pulled that package out at the post office was like, whoa, what's going on in here? But yeah, those jujubes were so hard to clean. The pawpaws were pretty easy. And I scraped on those jujubes, and I soaked them, and I rolled them around in a couple of different kind of like rough towels, and they just wouldn't. And finally I just wrapped them in a paper towel and said, she's not afraid of this kind of thing. So she says it's not my fault. Yeah. And granted, I mean, I'm sure it was hot. It was hot. So all of those seeds that I just described above, the ones that I kept here, I plugged into my tree propagation beds. Also my American chestnuts. So all of those just got planted. Planted, composted, mulched, so they can hang out over the summer and over the winter, and hopefully I will see tree seedlings begin to emerge as we get back into spring. I've got 1 bed remaining that I haven't planted yet, so I'm kind of holding out for obtaining a few more things. And then I've got 2 more that I can build very, very quickly. Actually, from my brother's old bobcat tracks. He's going to bring them down, and I'm going to fill them up and with compost and a planting mix. So we'll be doing more propagation down here for sure. Margot says she has to cold stratify in the fridge and then plant. Yes. So if you are where you're not really going to get freezing temperatures, I know at least for pawpaw seeds and probably for jujubes too, you need to let them go through the cold stratification process. And if you can't do that by having them planted outside like I can do here, you can put them in the fridge. Also, especially for certain pawpaw seeds, you can't let them dry out. They won't be viable anymore. So you can kind of set them up like in a peat moss mixture or something like that in your fridge, like probably in your crisper drawer, but not in your freezer. So when we say cold stratification, freezer is too cold. So the fridge should work, especially I would think like the back of the fridge. That's kind of the way to go for that. So yeah, Margot, I hope you have success with those. It's, I'm real big on just sowing seed like a crazy person and figure the potential benefits are worth a few extra minutes of labor, especially seeing what pawpaw trees sell for. I saw a couple at Ace Hardware last week. They were $55 for 4-foot trees. And I'm not saying that it's not maybe worth it, but I've watched how fast they can grow. It's not that hard to start them on your own land. Pawpaw seed does not always breed true, but again, it's worth experimenting. Also, right before all this rain came in, I was able to amend the garden beds, remulched, I think all but my very bottom path, and dropped in just a whole bunch of root vegetable seeds, some peas, some lettuces, some hardy greens, things like that. Get a little bit of a fall garden. Because even here, even if I don't get a lot to harvest by late fall, pretty much all of that will still overwinter, especially if I throw some straw on it. And I'll have an earlier spring harvest. And I just like to have a little bit of action going in the garden year round. I don't like to necessarily completely abandon it or just mulch it over. The bottom row may not get planted, but I've got a couple of different cover crop seeds that I'm going to experiment with. Let's see. Well, yeah. So that was my list. So I guess what I kind of had in mind for my main topic tonight, and I'm not real sure how long I'll go on this because it's one of those things where it's more of a conversation between two people. But what inspired this was last night, Angel and I watched a documentary about people who research flat Earth. So that said, not that I care what people think, because I really don't. I don't necessarily have a designated position on the shape of this realm. But you got to admit that the flat Earth researchers have some pretty compelling arguments. There's also compelling arguments on the globe side of things. I'm kind of the position these days that I don't really believe much of anything that's told to me from people who have interest in controlling narratives. And that also, to be noted, we saw in this documentary, and it's on Amazon Prime, so it's pretty easy to come by. It's on the free portion of Amazon Prime. There were also people shown in this documentary who had clearly turned their belief of flat Earth into kind of this bizarre religion. And I also have a little bit of pause with dogma in general. Evangelization of belief systems is very kind of weird to me. So again, you roll how you want to roll. But like I was saying with my guests who were up here for the foraging class, why is it that folks are so, and this is a generalization, but that the masses or that the predominant culture comes down so hard on people who hold alternative beliefs or even willing to research things that kind of go against the prevailing paradigm? And I think there's probably a lot of reasons for that. Perhaps one reason is that people are become very uneasy and threatened when their belief systems are very powerful. I mean, wars get fought over this. People by the billions get killed over this over many, many centuries. Why are we so feeling attacked when things that we believe strongly are called into question? I've always kind of wondered about this because in my mind, if you have a very strong faith about anything at all, this is a generalization, then you should be able to have comfort and strength in that and not necessarily feel the need to bowl over people who don't share that opinion. Again, you guys know, like, I am super, I don't know about the libertarian label these days, and anarchist gets misused too. Very live and let live. I want people to pursue lives that are fulfilling and create community and do things that better themselves and better their future and better the earth for future generations without screwing people over in one form or another. That's all. That's my position. It's been my position for a long, long time, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. So in this documentary, they basically had establishment scientists, physicists, astronauts, people who work for NASA and all these other, programs. And while they weren't being abusive in their language, they were certainly looking down upon these people who question things. And one lady even essentially said, well, if we if we let them question this, then they can question anything. And Angel and I looked at each other and said, well, what the heck is wrong with that? uh, I don't really know. I don't know where that reaction comes from. And so I guess I just wanted to put out there that you guys are welcome to talk to me about whatever you want to talk about and ask me questions about anything. I had folks ask me at the foraging class about um, funny looking lines that are in the sky. I don't know what they are, but I do know I don't remember ever seeing them as a little kid. And I do remember spending lots and lots and lots of hours on a blanket on my back out in the sun watching the clouds go by, seeing shapes in the clouds. I don't ever remember seeing streaks and streaks and streaks. So there is that. And I think a healthy world, a healthy, well-balanced world is one where we get to explore anything and everything. You hop on archive.org and you can find a lot of, older publications, books that are out of print, books that are in, whatever, open domain. And it's interesting to see what people are writing about and studying, even at this point, 100 or 150 years ago. So let me pause for a second and say howdy to Pippinized. Good to see you, my friend. Yeah, I don't ever remember seeing a tic-tac-toe grid. That was just I don't remember seeing that until I was an adult. And I know for a fact, like, I don't pay as much attention to the sky now as I used to as a little kid because I don't always have the time to stop and look up. But I just can't help but notice that and there were planes in the sky then too. And I'm pretty sure they're running the same kind of fuel mixture that these planes use. So what's up with that? So I like to ask questions. I like to study things. I think it's just I think that is our natural state as humans, is to be inquisitive. And I think people should be very, very wary of folks who try to clamp down on that natural curiosity that we all have. And we certainly don't need to be coming down harshly on one another for exploring these things. Yeah, Pippin, let me know how you guys are doing down there with the weather. It seems like you at least have cell phone or internet service, so that's good. I recently listened to a podcast that was big on electroculture, this is kind of one of those things that's kind of coming back around again. This stuff is very cyclical. But I will say that we deployed a couple of electroculture rods, just real simple ones, next to a very normally slow growing shrub. We have a small, it's not small anymore, heart-a-busting shrub in dappled shade, which is what they prefer. They don't like to be out in the sun. This is a native to our region. And it has grown 4 feet in a year and a half. And they don't normally grow that fast. So the only thing I've done differently was put that rod. We actually just planted it right into the rocky soil, gave it some mulch. I haven't amended it. I don't even really water it. I did not give it compost tea or anything like that. So that was interesting. That thing grew really fast, and it has set a bunch of seed this year, and I will be collecting seed off of that very soon. Electroculture is an interesting thing. The work of Victor Schauberger is also very interesting. Schauberger, and you can find lots of his stuff on archive.org, both documentaries and his texts. And he studied the movement of water and determined that water has kind of an intelligence of its own, and that water that is structured, that undergoes a vortexing process, has more life-supporting abilities than water that is compressed inside pipes, which of course is how most of us get our water these days. So I just like to dig around on these things, and you guys are always welcome in my groups, anywhere you see me pop up, to approach these topics with me. There's really nothing too out there or too bizarre. I think I know we're supposed to be curious. We're supposed to research, and collect and curate and share our knowledge. And that's one of the things that really keeps me going. If I get stagnant, it's because I'm probably starting to get bored with something, and I have to go off and find something new to research. And in the era of the internet, and even if we have to kind of use different search engines these days, some of them are not as good as they used to be. There's still plenty out there to explore. So that's kind of what I had in mind uh, for you guys tonight. I need to wrap it up fairly soon. I've got a little bit of daylight left. Try to knock out a couple of things before part one of the work for the weekend. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. Really appreciate it. Y'all stay safe in the weather. Let me know if you need help with anything. Let me know if need to activate anybody in your region for assistance. And we will talk to you guys next time. Y'all have a good night.